Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Recovery Rockstars. My name is Melinda, and I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I have not had to use a mood or mind-altering substance since December 28th of 2011. The gratitude I have for the journey of recovery is never ending, and the gratitude only grows as I continue to learn new skills and just this new way of life that can be applied to not only the challenges I had with substance use and addiction in the past, but also to everyday life. I'm grateful that recovery has taught me how to approach and respond to things that come up around me, and to know that regardless of the circumstances going on the outside, as long as I'm strong on the inside, there's nothing that I can't get through with the help of my peers in recovery. So super grateful to be a person in recovery right now, and very excited that we are seeing the restrictions from COVID being lessened, so we can continue to connect not only virtually and by phone, but in person with the people that we are loving and supporting. So it's just a beautiful month right now, with the many changes going on, the opportunities that we have ahead of us, and the great team, especially in the state of Vermont, that continues to unite and fight the battle against addiction. I want to put in a plug, as I typically do, for Narcan, which is known as naloxone, the overdose kits, and encourage people to make sure to have a kit on you, as well as encourage your loved ones to have kits. It's important to know that it's better to have a kit and never need it than to need a kit and not have it. And they are readily available at no charge through the health department and the pilot sites. So our local recovery centers and hubs and spokes, I encourage people to check out the Vermont Department of Health website to find a location next to you that you can get not only the Narcan, but the harm reduction packs, which are known as HRPs. So again, just really encourage people to access those readily available resources, and also encourage people to look up your local turning point or recovery center in your area. We have 12 recovery centers in the state of Vermont. If you're trying to find one in your area and unsure of how to do so, you can look up the Vermont Recovery Network website, and that lists all of the local recovery centers. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I am extremely excited today to introduce the guest that I'm going to be interviewing. I met Michael years ago when I first started this journey, not only into recovery, but the professional piece of my journey. Michael and I got united at a board of directors retreat back when I was on the Turning Point board of directors, as well as the Vermont Recovery Network board of directors. And I remember we just had such a fabulous time getting to know all of our peers who are working to do the same work. So I reached out to Michael recently, because we have been connected off and on since then, and asked him if he would be willing to share a little bit about his journey with us. And not only is he a peer in recovery, which makes it feel like family, but he's also a fellow musician, which makes it doubly exciting. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Melinda, thank you for having me. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, I would never say no. So
yeah,
that's part of recovery too. And my name is Michael, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. That means I haven't had a drink or a drug since December 11th, 2009. Was my last drink.
That's so awesome, and I love how
we to be here today. Living life today.
Love it, Michael. And I love how you alluded to the fact that it sounds like you were taught the same way I was taught, that we don't say no to service.
Yeah, and you can't, because, that helps me, and it also helps other people. So, that's very important. So, yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
Hasn't it? Yeah.
So that's what we would love to learn more about today, Michael. Tell me a little bit about your younger years and what your life looked like.
Well, I was a pretty normal kid, and kind of fit somewhere in the middle, athletic and a musician too. And I didn't really have a group of kids I hung out with. I hung out with just about everybody, but I was introduced to the nightclub life in around 8th grade. There was a band that needed a drummer that lived near me, and I sat in, and he took me on, and so I started playing, and in 8th grade I'm playing in a nightclub that was downtown, And I'm going, well, this is great because I'm like this little kid and all the big sisters are taking care of me and stuff, but this is the life that I thought this was great. So, and I had a pretty decent childhood, but also as I got into like going out to the parties and things like that, I realized like I was always the first one there and the last one to leave. Where'd everybody go? And it's like there's a few of us that were like that, and didn't really mean much to me then, But as I look back, it's like, I just really enjoyed getting high and drinking and being, and wanted to be the life of the party too. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was to fit in or for just to make myself feel better about myself, but it's kind of how things work, And then, went through life with relationships and was in bands and then I, ended up moving to Boston with a musician, and we almost made it, and we did some big stages and opened for the Cars at Boston Garden and toured the country and did MTV, one of our songs off our EP, which Rick Ocasek produced, and I thought I had the world, but the other guys were serious about what they were doing. I was living the what everybody saw in LA, and which we were out there too. And it was like, that's not for me. I mean, I was just wanting to live the rock star life and drinking and partying and all the other things that came along with it. Hey, they pay me in money and a pile of white stuff and as much as you can drink, and it's like, what a great job this is, right? And consequently, it cost me my position playing, It took me a lot of years to come to grips with that's why. And it was me and it wasn't them. I had a lot of resentment and, and anger towards other people, but it was me, and my choices, and even then, my first experience with recovery, a 12-step group, went to one of the college bars, Bunratty's, I think, in Boston or something, and I lived down the street, not far, and I woke up and I was in the Salvation Army in Kenmore Square. Someone had brought me there, dropped me off, and say, you got to make your bed, and you got to go to the meeting, and I'm going, what are you talking about? That was my first experience, and something sunk in that something wasn't right, but I wasn't really ready to do anything about that. So I struggled for a number of years off and on, and and then I found recovery, and I moved to New York. I moved back to Vermont, then I moved out to New York for, a scenic change of scenery, and while I was there, I had found faith too in my life, and really didn't know where I belonged in that either, but I knew it meant a lot to me. And, I think I've had my road to Damascus moment then, and it was pretty good, but I still wasn't ready to change. I had been sober for a while, then started working construction and doing some stuff and hanging out with some, at the bar after work, and everything kind of was just an existence, and that's where I met my wife, and so she was fishing, and her line was tangled, and we were all sitting there, and after work by the river, the guys from work, and I went down and untangled her line, and we talked, and the rest is history. She says, you want to meet someone, go fishing, and so anyway, I knew that this is what I wanted once our relationship had started, and I have a stepson, and he's like 37 now, and for me it was a struggle because I know what I really wanted, and I wanted to be really that person to be needed, and it was really hard, and we ended up moving back to Vermont. We came to visit, and she ended up getting transferred back to the state. She worked for the VA system, and so we moved back to my hometown where I grew up, and now I have a house 200 yards from my mom's house. same neighborhood, but it was off and on struggling, And then I ended up working for mental health services for about 18 years and learning and being in and out of recovery. I put like 8 years together and then have, think I had it all. What did I forget to do, or what was I doing, or what wasn't I doing, and that happened a couple of times, and consequently lost my job from that too, because I couldn't drive anymore. And even though I could do my job without driving, as a case manager, the thing is, it was the right thing for them to do. But it was the right thing for me too. And I didn't realize that. And I was angry about that too. But what I ended up doing is ending up, I was participating 12-step group, but I was also meeting people in recovery. And I had found this great group of friends and fellows that we went and did fishing, and we did different things together, and, musicians and just all those good things. And so I got a job working with troubled youth at the school with a non-traditional education program. And I started they were down the street in Turning Point, and I was coming here, but I started bringing a couple of them here. We'd go to meetings and we do our classwork here because it was a place for them to be, and they could work like 20 minutes and they needed to stop. And I got to learn about families and understanding of how the disease affects everybody, and learning to have a lot of patience, and so life changed. And so with that, all I did is do the next right thing. And I kept doing that, and doors opened, the right doors. Someone had a path for me, which isn't me. I didn't decide it. And I was helping the interim director here, and I'd be in early and I'd stay late, and I was learning some of the ins and outs, and position became open, and someone said, "You should throw your hat in the ring." I said, "Okay." And I've been here ever since. And, for me, I'm really grateful for that. All those things that happened to me, they happened for a reason, so I could become who I am today. And I get clean and sober so I can enjoy life. And because, there's a lot that we miss, and there's a lot that we can see, and there's always new things to learn. And for me, a lot of often is, it's great to be clean and sober, but it's great to be clean and sober and learn how to live life in sobriety. I can do everything I used to do except drink or drug, but I have to and I have to do things in safety. I have to look at the plans, but that's okay. I stopped playing music, and now I am, although I haven't for a year and a half, but still it's like I have an opportunity to do the things that I love. And I love my family, and I love my friends, and I am so grateful for all the people that I have working for me here. This is my other family, and I have a great team, and each one of them is a unique individual, and and I'm blessed to have the team that I have. When I started here, we had 3 people: me, Larry, my transition house manager and recovery coach supervisor, and a part-time person in the office. And now it's like I have 20 people working for me, and 2 hospitals and all kinds of stuff, and overdose outreach team in five towns, and a lot of recovery coaching, and just opening up to a variety of meetings for all paths to recovery. And it is super amazing to watch how this changed. And my head swims sometimes. I don't know what I'm doing because you got so many things happening, but it's great. I'd rather have that as a problem than, have to worry about how to help people, and so that's kind of me in a nutshell, and I'm grateful to talk about recovery anytime, because people need to know that there is an answer. Recovery is the answer, before, during, and after anything else. If you put recovery first, everything else can happen for you.
I thank you, Michael. What a great, overview of what it looked like for you, and that you got in recovery, and what life is like today. And there's so many things that stood out, points that you made. One of the points that you had said that definitely stands true for me and from other people that I talk to is the fact that, I remember before I got in recovery and people would try to encourage me and say, you wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for what you went through. But at that point in my life, I still hated myself and I hated everything about my life because I hadn't gotten in recovery. So it's like, well, there's no good that could possibly come out of this. And yet, fast forward just a little bit, getting in recovery, it's like, thank goodness I went through those things, because I find that the path that was made for me, not by myself, but by the God that I believe in, it wouldn't have been possible to do the work that I do now if it wasn't for having experienced those things that were many times uncomfortable and embarrassing and painful. And yet there hasn't been a lack of opportunity to share with other people that I do believe you can recover from X, Y, and Z, because not only have I heard about it, but I've lived it. So in your journey and the work that you're doing now, which is, I like to summarize it in saving lives, but the work that you're doing now, are you finding that even, as years have passed since you got in recovery, that there's different people brought to you that are asking for help that you can identify because you went through those experiences?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, and not necessarily music or those things, but people who had passions in their lives and things that mean a lot to them that they just can't do, and well, I can't do that anymore. Well, maybe not today, but you will again, but you have to know how to do it in safety and how you can plan for those things. And you have to, make sure that your recovery comes first. And that takes practice, and this same thing goes with any of the people that we work with. Is like, you are who you hang around with. So, and it's like, well, I mean, are they your friends? I'm not going to say they are or they aren't, but sometimes you have to change that circle to change yourself, and I know that sometimes the people are comfortable in their misery because that's all they know. So how do you help someone do that, change that? Well, you invite them into things and into the centers or into an events or into things where they can see people are having fun or enjoying life, or family groups or family outings, or picnics with the people in recovery, where they understand that we're no different. We do those things, but we don't have to drink or drug while we're there, and there's a whole lot more we can find. And, everybody has their opinions, but, for myself, I can speak for myself only, but when God came into my life, and I always asked him to take the obsession away, and, I don't want to have to ever think about it again, and it took a long time for me to give it all to him to do that. And what I always hung on to a piece of, well, maybe I'll be okay someday, or, and every time I did that, something would happen. But when I honestly and from my heart gave it all away, it's like, you take this pain and you take that misery, because I don't want it anymore. And it's probably been about 5 years I don't have that thought come by, and thanks be to God for that for me. And like I said, I'm just speaking for myself. I can't tell everybody else what to believe, but I know that's made a big difference in my life too. And yes, I can reminisce, and I can see other people, but it's there. And as substance use disorder will wait for you, and it'll wait till you're in that place when you're not ready, or catch you by surprise when you're not paying attention. My last DUI was because people were buying drinks for the band. I was playing out, and I wasn't drinking until this person came around, and out of nowhere, it was like, bam. And once I started, it was like, uh-oh, I figured if that one would be fine, I'd get through the night. But by the time I left, I, like this, driving home, and it's like, wow. And it's like, where'd that come from? Well, the disease is waiting for me to make a mistake or not pay attention. So the biggest thing I can say is that we have to be proactive and ready. The only way to do that stay connected to recovery at all times. I'm not saying you have to do something every minute of every day, but you certainly have to make that a priority in your life and make yourself aware of it every day. And that's through connection with other people, because other people are the ones who are going to help remind you where you were and where you can be and where you are. It's like, you're in a shaky spot, Mike. You want me to call you later? And it's like, yeah, because I didn't even realize it, but people get to know you and they can call you out and, kind of see where you are and how you're acting. And if you don't let other people in, you're by yourself again. And I don't want to ever be there again.
Yeah, I know when time by myself, I get really horrible advice when I'm thinking and I'm by myself. And what you just said, it reminds me too of the suggestions that were made for me and my mom, because I also had, uncomfortably 4 different DWIs, and it was a similar thing. And, where I was so sure that I wouldn't pick up again. And in that moment, and this is what I try to share with families too, that when they say my loved one said that they promised they're never going to use again, and I believe them and they lied because they use, and it's like, well, if people would have asked me and I had a lie detector test hooked up to me on those times I said I wasn't going to use again, it would have been authentic because I truly did not want to use again. The challenge is I didn't know how not to pick up again. And it was strongly suggested to, whether it's get a sponsor, a recovery coach, a mentor, but they say, it's strongly suggested. And when I talk to people, I say that too, because I know we don't like being told what to do. We want to make the decision ourselves. And that being said, I encourage people that if you go skydiving, they strongly suggest that you wear a parachute. So if you're getting in recovery, they strongly suggest that you get that sponsor, recovery coach, 12, whatever that partner is that can help show you the way. Because just like you said, people around us will recognize they'll recognize what's going on before we do sometimes. And that also includes when we start growing, they see the change before we see it. And I know I saw the change in my peers around me, whether it was good or bad change, before I saw the change within myself. And that's why we need each other so critically to stay on that journey and be aware. So I love that you highlighted that. And the other thing that you're highlighting from since we started, and you had mentioned that, you got in recovery and there was a certain time that you stopped playing music, you stopped doing certain things, but eventually it sounds like some of those things that you stopped, you were able to pick back up on. And I feel like that point is important for people to hear, because there's this thought that if I get in recovery, if I can't drink or use drugs, I'm never going to have fun again. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you, it's like, I enjoy playing so much more today, and only because it's about the music and it's about, and as a musician, you know this, there is no high like there is when you're in the zone when you're playing. And it's like, I'm a drummer, so when the bass player and I are locked in and we do things spontaneously, but we do them at the same time, and it's like, how'd that happen? It's like, and we just start smiling because it's like, you just know, and you can't explain it to anyone unless they feel that. Or it's like a bowler who bowls a 300. When they're in that groove and those things are happening, don't talk to them, because they're there and that's their space, and nothing can get in that when that's going on. Because everybody else out in the audience, I don't see them. I don't even know they exist when I'm playing, because it's my world right here, right now, and it's like, and it's a way to get away. It's also a way to enjoy other people who are in the same space with you, and occasionally you let the guitar player in the space, push him out, lead singer up, but you know what I mean. And so it's really great to be in that. And people, it's like fishing. I love fishing. I love going early in the morning when there's fog on the pond, and the sun's just rising through, and it's just me and the peace of the world out there, and there's nobody else around because no one's up that early, and it's like, but the peace and the serenity that I have at that moment is so important to me, Right. And I'm realizing now, through all this COVID and all this time and all the things going on, I need to take some days and go do that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that we do talk about is self-care, and I tell my staff that the most important thing we can do is take care of ourselves because we can't take care of anybody if we don't do that. And
it's amazing how that's something we learn. And logically, I know that. I truly believe it in my heart, and still find it a challenge when I see people suffering. And I think, oh, well, this is the time I scheduled to do, my music or go for a walk or whatever it might be, that I used to just put other people's needs on that and push it on. Because my mentor had me put that on my calendar, self-care. But yet, if there's something going on and somebody's in need, I felt selfish to leave self-care. I'd boot it out. But eventually, physically, we can't keep up. And then our body will put us down. So I love that you highlight the self-care, because it is critical for those working, whether working in the field or just, as we know, it's not about employment, because when we're off the clock, we're still responsible to give and to give back and help people. So it's not about that, but just that lifestyle and balance is a challenge. So as we're nearing the end of our show, and I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I'm extremely grateful we got connected. Is there anything that you would like to have our listeners know from you, a mantra, a one-liner, or any point that you really want people to remember as they watch the show?
Just a couple of things. All right. One of them is, if you're struggling with addictions of any kind, with substance use disorder, doesn't matter what it is. If you need help, there's people available to help you. And Melinda listed where you can find that help. And also that tomorrow can be a better day, and you can take care of the things today, and you need to stay connected. So find some place where you can find connectivity to recovery. And I don't care what path it is. If you go to the gym every day and that's what keeps you sober, I'll help you find a gym pass. You know what I mean? Because that's what's important, and use other people to help you, and don't feel like you're alone, because you're never alone, because that's, you can't do it by yourself. But there are others out here to help you, and we're grateful to do it, because we're grateful that we're in recovery ourselves, and it's been great to see you guys, and it was, a pleasure to talk to you today,
Thank you so much, Michael. I am just so grateful we've been reconnected, so grateful that we're walking this journey of recovery together, as well as being able to work as peers together. And I want to thank everybody who's been able to watch this show today. I hope that you're able to take some nuggets and some pieces of hope, because as we continue to share with the community, people do recover. There is hope, and all you have to do is reach out. So I thank everybody for joining us today. Reminder to connect with some Narcan, connect with the Vermont Recovery Network site to see some more resources. And we're looking forward to seeing you next time on Recovery Rockstar.
Recovery is the answer.
Woo!